Okay. So thank you very much for joining us today. I'd like to uh, uh, introduce our speakers. Please note that this session will be recorded. Our speakers today, we have Dr. Bradford Lee. He is a a Doctor of Education holder in TESOL from Anaheim University. He has a master's in applied linguistics from the University of Newcastle and a bachelor's in linguistics from the University of Hawaii. He's currently an associate professor at Fukui University of Technology. His co-presenter is Dr. Ahmed Al-Khateeb. He holds a PhD in applied linguistics and modern languages from the University of Southampton in the UK. And he's the winner of a Fulbright scholarship, and he's a visiting scholar at the University of Massachusetts. Their presentation today is titled Smartphone Writing Fluency, the Case of Saudi EFL Students. So I turn it over to you, Dr. Lee and Dr. Al-Khateeb. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your introduction. And thank you to the attendees. And first, before we get started, we would like to extend our thanks to all of the JALCAL 2021 organizers and sponsors who helped put this conference together and made it possible for us to exchange ideas with you today. So today, like we had the introduction, we would like to present our recent study, Analyzing Writing Fluency on Smartphones. We just had the introduction, but I'm Dr. Bradford Lee, and my location is in Fukui, University of Technology in Japan, on the western part of the island. And my co-presenter, Dr. Al-Khateeb, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for, and I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the JALCAL 2021 for organizing this great and wonderful conference. Just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Ahmed Al-Khateeb, and I come from, as you see in the map, from Saudi Arabia. And my place specifically is located in the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. And this is just a snapshot from my place and where I live. And it's famous for dates and palm trees. But at the meantime, I'm working at King Faisal University as an associate professor of applied linguistics and language learning technologies and a chair of English language.
So our study actually had 3 research questions. The first research question was, to what extent, if any, does writing medium, which by that we mean paper versus smartphone, affect the writing fluency of Saudi EFL learners writing in their L1, which would be Arabic? Second research question is the same, but how does the writing medium affect their fluency writing in their L2 of English? And finally, our third research question was, which writing medium do the students prefer for writing assignments in their L2, and what reasons do they cite? So the motivation for this study actually came out of, I did a similar study, which I presented here at JALCAL 2020 last year, similarly in the Japanese university context. The study we'll talk about today essentially replicates the main RQs of the precursor study, but under a different context. And the third research question regarding the qualitative aspects of writing was not a part of the precursor study. So that is a new element which we are adding, which we have added to the current study. To give you an overview of the project, first we should explain what we mean by writing fluency. Essentially, we're referring to the time it took students to transcribe a prescribed text perfectly, including all capitalizations, punctuation spaces, numerals, and everything like that. It's important to talk about that because in current research standards, there's no set standard way that researchers measure writing fluency. For example, other researchers have set the timer at 2 minutes and seen how much the students can produce in the first 2 minutes. Or another method is having the students write, for example, the alphabet. How many times can they write the alphabet in a 1-minute span, etc. But the way that we did it was we had this text and we had them reproduce it. The reason why we did this is because we were trying to replicate as authentically as possible realistic classroom conditions. So we imagine a teacher has something written on the chalkboard, and then the students want to copy that down either on paper or copy it down by taking notes on their smartphone. So also, this is the same research method that we used in the precursor study. So we wanted to keep the methods exactly the same so we could compare the results between studies. With regards to why writing fluency is an important area of research, it's been shown that the physical act of writing is entirely distinct from the cognitive aspects. In other words, the two skills are working independently of one another. And so the more that a person is able to automatize the physical processes of writing, the more cognitive resources will be available to them for the composing part of the writing process. I'm sure everyone can imagine sitting in front of a computer trying to type something, pecking at the keyboard with 2 fingers. So you're like, oh, and then obviously this process, if you're having to devote so much attention to actually finding the keys on the keyboard, that's going to disrupt your cognitive flow, which has several impacts on not only the length of your composition tends to be shorter, but also the quality overall will decrease. So what did we do in the actual study? I'll turn it over to Dr. Khateeb, who will give you a brief outline of our study design.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, for this explanation concerning the research questions. As far as the study design is concerned in this project, we managed to, can you move to the next class? Can you move to, yes. So as far as the study design of this study is concerned, we targeted 4th year English major students in one public university in Saudi Arabia, and we managed to target 150 participants, and then those students which we managed to target, they ranged between level B2 and A1 according to the Common European Framework of Reference. Based on the number we got, we classified the students into, or the participants into 2 main groups, and we call them Group A and Group E. Group A represent the Arabic group, or the group which will do their writing and typing in Arabic, and there were 72 participants. For the other group, the second group, which we call it Group E, or group who produce and who are going to do the type in English, there were 77 students.
So the difference between 150, there was one student who we had to eliminate from the Group E because his data was an outlier. So that's why the numbers is different here.
Exactly, yes. So the task was about producing 2 short passages in Arabic and English. The same, can you, for the task, we try to produce a task which has similar number of words in Arabic and English. So just to ensure that the students in both the groups, in Group A and Group E, will produce the same amount of letters, no matter that whether this is in English or in Arabic. So as far as the procedures are concerned, as I just stated, we managed to classify the students or the participants in two major groups, Group A and the Group E. The Group A and the Group E were asked voluntarily, of course, to produce to do two main kind of tasks. The first task was about transcribing an Arabic text by smartphone, and this is as a first commitment. The second commitment was about transcribing the same text using a paper and hand. I mean, to produce by hand. I mean, the traditional one. Whereas the second group, which is the group E, they were asked to produce an English text on smartphone and then to replicate it using a paper and pen, just to make sure that both groups should produce the same kind of text in Arabic and in English, and then just to allow to give us the opportunity to compare and do the statistical analysis needed. In addition to this, just to get further data, we managed to design a questionnaire, including some open-ended questions, which were distributed to the participants in both the groups, just to get as much as data and answers from students about their perceptions, about their feelings, about their insights concerning the process that they have gone through during this experiment.
So the students were timed how long it took them to transcribe, either by paper or by smartphone, and I'll present the results. First, the general results, the descriptive statistics of the transcription time. So these times are in seconds. So as you can see, Group A in Arabic by paper, about 542-43 seconds, and by smartphone, 571-72 seconds. The English group, similarly, they were faster by paper, so 573.4 seconds versus 679 seconds. So both groups, they were faster transcribing by hand than they were by smartphone. In order to determine whether these were significant results or not, these are the results of the t-test. And as you can see, the difference for the Arabic group was not statistically significant, but the Group E difference was. And this is to an effect size, Cohen's d of 0.52, which we classify as medium, a medium effect size based on Plonsky and Oswald's 2014, standards for second language studies. So we found that they actually was a significant difference for they were slower. They were slower when they're using their smartphones to a significant degree. But for the research question 3, so when we asked them the open-ended questions, which medium would you choose for an English writing assignment? We found that overall, 62% of the students said that they would indeed prefer to complete their assignments on a smartphone. That's the overall of all 150 students, which is significantly significant on the smartphone side to a Kramer's V of 0.24, but the individual group dynamics. So Group A, 34.7% paper, 65.3% smartphone. This is also statistically significant, but the Group E, it was less than the average. So only 59% of them said that they would still choose a smartphone. Perhaps this is because they actually experienced doing both trials, and they had the experience knowing that, yes, it does take a lot longer for us to complete the assignment on smartphone. So we assume that's why the statistics here are slightly different. As to why they answered as they did, the qualitative results are here tabulated. Some students, when we ask the why would you prefer to use your smartphone, students cited reasons such as speed and efficacy. Of course, the results did show that they were actually faster by hand. So this is a little bit strange case. You can see the A group, which didn't really make a difference whether it was paper or smartphone. 38 responses cited speed, whereas there were less students who cited speed as a reason in the English group. Affective factors just means that they just prefer their smartphone. They love their smartphone. Functions, it means, like, for example, spell checking. Some students said it's easier to save their data. It's easier to transfer their data if they want to email it to the teacher, or save it to the cloud or something. Students also cited the modernity. So they said, some students said, like, these days, if you're not using your smartphone, what are you doing? So this was especially in the English group, which was interesting to us because these are the students who experienced the reduction in speed by using their smartphones, but still they said, this is what everyone does these days. This is what we have to do. Negative responses in terms of smartphone, only 2 or 3 students mentioned this, but for example, distraction, they said if they're using their smartphone and they get like a notification, oh, you got a new email, they're more likely to read the email instead of concentrating on their work. Size was an issue for some students. They said, the small size of the screen could affect their productivity. And cognitive factors, some students said that it was difficult to focus on their composition. They would prefer writing on a piece of paper, or maybe, jotting notes on the side or something like that. In terms of handwriting, some positive responses. Yeah, so you can see here the English group said, yeah, writing on paper is just faster, which found to be the case. Affective factors, they just like the feel of the paper. They like the feeling of writing on paper. It just brings them some kind of joy. Cognitive flow, some people said that it's kind of even. 7 students in the Arabic group, 6 students in the English group. They said they felt that their writing was smoother on paper. And then writing skills means basically handwriting and the beauty aspects of it. Ergonomics, some people said that this is somewhat related to the small size of the screen, and like eye strain and other kind of physical aspects. And then the last results, negative comments regarding handwriting, penmanship. Some students said, oh, my handwriting is terrible. I don't like writing. And then they said, if some students said if they write by hand, their hand gets cramped, especially if they're writing longer things. But also some people said on the same thing on the smartphone, they feel, they're crouching over, they feel muscle tension, etc. So that is a general summary of our qualitative responses. Okay, and then last, we'll do our key takeaways, and then we'll have a short question time if anybody has any questions.
Okay, so just to wrap up, and I would like to stress before to talk about the takeaway or some of the takeaways I just would like to emphasize what has just Dr. Lee mentioned about having insights from from the students. This allowed us to get deeper into their insights and feelings. So having the qualitative and the quantitative was really, really interesting and thought-provoking. Okay, so just to wrap up, so some of the takeaways, such findings have given us more insightful about the importance of raising awareness and consideration concerning or when when mobile learning course is designed. Next, please. Yes. So such training programs for professional typing is highly needed and to be incorporated into different curricula and language programs. So this is also very important, and this was it was so clear in our data and findings. Utilizing smartphones to support the teaching of the composition process in class and out of class, which may complement handwriting to impress, to embrace innovative practices such as collaborative writing is also important. So the summary of these takeaways is to emphasize that both modes of writing are needed to be taken into account, in addition to providing the necessary training for the students before they start the process of writing either on smartphone or or traditionally using paper and pen. So we can't say that one of them is better than the other, or one of them should disregard the other one, but we would rather conclude that smartphone would complement the process of writing on using paper and pen.
Okay, so that's the end of our prepared comments. If there's any questions or anything, we would like to address those.
Yeah, please unmute yourself if you have any questions for Dr. Lee or Dr. Khateeb. So if I may ask, I was wondering, are there key differences between Arabic and English? I don't know Arabic very well, but when it comes to writing, I believe that Arabic is written differently in a different direction, right, from right to left. And regarding the smartphone, what are some key differences there?
Okay, Dr. Lee, can I answer?
Yes, please.
Well, the difference is actually there is a big difference between Arabic and English, including the type of the letters, including even the shape. Arabic is a Semitic language. So the shape of the letters are totally different. If you are still interested, we can send you some of the text that were produced by the students, just to get an idea about how Arabic is written in comparison to the English text. So anyway, the answer in brief, yes, there is a big difference in terms of, I would say there is no comparison, there is no similarity at all. Even Arabic is written from right to left, unlike English. As I said, the shape of the letters.
So in terms of a smartphone entry, so in Arabic, each letter has various variations depending on where the letter appears in a word. So
yes,
we figure that would actually reduce the speed, the fluency, because the student has to, it's kind of like Japanese, where you have to keep choosing the correct version that you want. So it does involve additional button presses when you're using a smartphone.
Exactly, because Arabic is written, or there are many variations for Arabic letters. So if, for example, alif, for example, or ba, okay, if it comes at the beginning, it would be written differently than if it comes in the middle or at the end. So I think this is this would slower the process of typing on smartphone.
I see. Thank you very much. I'm one of those that suffers in penmanship in handwriting, and I was wondering, did you? Because when I transcribe, I tend to transcribe quickly, but I often can't read what I've written after. I was wondering if you guys controlled for penmanship with your results.
We did not control for penmanship, but what we said was if they made a mistake, they had to correct their mistake, and that was on the clock. And if they submitted their assignment and we found a mistake, we would add 1 second penalty. But as for penmanship, no, we didn't control for that.
I see. Thank you very much. Let's see that. Are there any other questions? If not, we could go ahead and wrap up. I just want to say to both Dr. Lee and to Dr. Al-Khateeb, I think it was a very fascinating presentation and also very relevant. I recently taught a class, a debate class, and for judging the debates, I had the judges use their smartphones just so I can get the information quicker. And this is very interesting presentation. And I'd like to thank you.
If we could just say one final closing comment.
Please, yeah.
Yes. So we were kind of expecting someone would say, why didn't you include PC typing in this experiment? But the reason why we didn't include PC typing is because one, there's been several studies published to date which have compared writing with typing, and so we kind of feel that that's already been established. But there hasn't been many studies looking at smartphone, which we've called tapping, smartphone tapping versus writing. That's one reason. The second reason is that both in Japan and in Saudi Arabia, the number of smartphone users is massively huge, and many people have smartphones that don't even have computers. So our selection of smartphone versus writing is kind of reflective of Dr. Al-Khateeb and my current context. So.
Thank you for bringing that up, because actually I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah, we figured someone would ask, so we prepared an answer.
Yeah.
But
I think that's so true. Exactly, since people are so on a rapid mode all the time, so a very few people are using actually PC in their writing, unlike a smartphone, which is getting popular. I think even in academia, not only in
social media.
Not only in social media.
Yeah.
Great, thank you again. Yeah. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you again.
Yes.
Thank everyone for attending. We've reached the end of our presentation. And if you have any more questions, you'd like to talk to Drs. Lee and Dr. Al-Khateeb, if they're going to move to the lounge from now. So yeah, thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Lee, and thanks for the presenter.